humor, and joy.
It is DNC week in Chicago. I know because I'm a few blocks away from United Center and there's a lot of helicopters. My name is Adam Tirarine, and I advise leaders on the systematic approaches to motivate other people's behavior with your ideas. So, as we look ahead to the Democratic National Convention with this refreshed Kamala Harris Tim Walz ticket, let's look back at the first 2 weeks of that ticket and see what you can learn. If we've worked together before, you know that I think about those systems for communication in 3 pillars: strategy to align your goals with your audience's values, message to structure communication in support of that strategy, and performance, using your voice and your body to inspire confidence when you deliver that message.
But seriously, isn't Tim Walz fantastic?
Let's start with strategy. And let's start with the strategic choice of Kamala Harris, even picking Tim Walz to be her running mate. You remember that Sunday Joe Biden dropped out of the race? It's Sunday afternoon. You're checking your phone, and the speculation immediately turns to who will be the Democratic nominee for president. Very quickly, support coalesces around Vice President Kamala Harris. And then the speculation immediately turns to who will be Harris's running mate. The early frontrunners are the most popular statewide elected officials in the big swing states: Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona, Governor Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania. But then things change because we get this miniaturized, accelerated 2-week public sweepstakes. All these people go on TV basically auditioning for the slot on Kamala Harris's ticket. And people start to see something less obvious, myself included. I even texted some friends a few days before the announcement just in case I was right. Let's see if you can see it too. Here's Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro at his state fair. Big day for a governor. Here's Minnesota Governor Tim Walz at his state fair. You tell me who seems more at ease and at home in this environment. Just your snap judgment in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, perfect. That's about how quickly voters make those kinds of judgments. Here's what I think happened. The obvious choice was Josh Shapiro for his home state. He's the popular governor of Pennsylvania, the swingiest state. But Shapiro's home culture is elite Generation X coastal legal scholarship. Went to an elite law school in a big city, attorney general of a big state. That sounds a lot like Kamala Harris. She already has that, doesn't need more. On the other hand, Tim Walz's home state is Minnesota, not a swing state, but his home culture is folksy baby boomer Midwestern agrarianism. That's not a scientific term. And Kamala Harris does not have that. She really needs it to appeal to the swingiest voters in the swingiest states, including not just Pennsylvania, but also Michigan and Wisconsin, and to a lesser extent, some people who have retired from there to Arizona and Nevada. Tim Walz brings the values of an audience that really matters to Kamala Harris in a way that she doesn't. And that's why I think this is a good pick. Here's the lesson for you. Of course, if you're a leader, you know that the best spokesperson for your ideas is not always you. Simple example, let's say you lead the sales team and your goal is for the R&D team to bring products to market faster. Okay, you know you need to bring in other voices to help you do this, and the most obvious choice would be your counterpart, the head of R&D. That's the home state choice. But if you made the home culture choice, it might be somebody else. You'd look for someone who most embodied the values of the audience that you're trying to change and align those values with your goal to move faster in R&D. Maybe that is someone more junior in R&D, not the head of R&D, but someone who has a history of delivering things quickly. Maybe it is a sales rep, a frontline member of your team who came over from R&D and has learned in sales the importance of bringing products to market quickly. The idea here is to find the spokesperson who matches the constituency, not just on the obvious title stuff, but on culture, deeply held values, shared experiences, and that gut reaction.
Yeah, I'm because I found such a leader.
Second, let's turn to message. In particular, I want to take a close look at the rally where Harris introduces Walz as her running mate. And at this rally, Harris does what you got to do when you're introducing someone, which is give him some credentials. She does this in an elevated, emotional way connected to values. Take a look.
To those who know him best, Tim is more than a governor. To his wife, Gwen, he is a husband. To his kids, Hope and Gus, he is a dad. To his fellow veterans, he is Sergeant Major Walz. To the people of southern Minnesota, for 12 years, he was congressman. To his former high school students, he was Mr. Walz. And to his former high school football players, he was coach. And in 91 days, the nation will know Coach Walz by another name, Vice President of the United States.
Now let's fast forward a few days. Harris and Walz are together in Las Vegas, Nevada, and Harris has to do that thing again where she introduces Walz, but notice how it's similar and different.
And I know for some folks, you're just getting to know him, and you've heard he's had many titles over his life: governor, congressman, dad, husband, coach. But in 87 days, our nation is going to know Coach Walz as Vice President of the United States of America.
This underscores the importance of repetition in communication and how to do it well. This little Tim Walz intro thing lives in what I would call the top of the message in Kamala Harris's stump speech. The top of the message is where we do the introductory and emotionally connective stuff. She is trying to draw out the values of family and service that she wants Tim Walz to help her connect with in the audience. That's as opposed to the bottom of the message where we have the substantive details and logical arguments. Political messaging in general is very top heavy, a lot of time on values, not a lot of time on specific stuff. But the lesson here about repetition is that the top of your message has to be repeated because those more connective values are the strongest motivators of behavior. When you go on a roadshow or some series of communications with lots of different stakeholders, you're going to get tired of repeating the same thing over and over again. I always tell leaders, push past the puke point. The moment you feel like, oh, I'm going to puke if I say this again, that's probably when it's just starting to catch on. But Harris just gave you a great example of how you can do that. Keep the structure of the message, but change the weight. So she reduced some of the weight of the top of the message, made the Walz introduction quicker, but without losing the emotional connection to those values. Over time, that's going to leave the campaign more time to expand the bottom of the message and add more detail. But the top never goes away. Keep the structure, change the weight.
Humor and joy.
Third, performance. This one's my favorite, and there's one quick watch out. We know that smiling, positive facial expression, is one of the strongest correlates with audience perception. Audiences view speakers as more confident, more trustworthy when they see that expression, and that facial expression gets distorted downward at a distance, including on video. So my neutral expression right now looks to you like something less than neutral. This slight smile looks neutral, and this really big smile doesn't look inappropriate. Those are getting distorted downward through our video connection. And that becomes especially important when you're talking about something positive. For example, in that kickoff rally in Philadelphia, of course, it wasn't just Harris introducing Walz, but Walz giving his first speech as the Democratic nominee for vice president. Take a look at the moment he credits Kamala Harris for bringing joy.
And I want all of you to hold this, and don't ever underestimate the power of this. She does it all with a sense of joy.
I would have loved to see more of a smile during that line, but there was a really big, broad one right afterwards, aligning the positive facial expression with the message. Now, fast forward 3 days to Phoenix, Arizona.
And I want to say something else, that this incredible leader, this incredible woman has brought to this fight, she has brought back compassion and decency and humor and joy to our politics.
Look, I'm not picking on the guy because I really can see how this decline in facial expression might have happened. One way is that Tim Walz is just tired. It is exhausting to crisscross the country and make these campaign appearances. It may also be because of the feedback that he's getting. When you enter a more public role, you might have experienced this when you were promoted to lead your department or become a CEO for the first time. The feedback you get increases by an order of magnitude. Not only is Tim Walz getting feedback from his political team, who he's worked with for years, but also the new advisors he's working with in the Harris campaign and his like old second cousin from Minnesota who dug up his phone number and is sending him texts now that he's on TV every day. And I would be shocked if at least some of that feedback wasn't, hey, careful about not being too goofy, or you smile a lot and we don't want them to make fun of you for that. We need more gravitas. You've heard a lot of this kind of cross-cutting feedback in your own career. There are a couple of things that you can learn here. One of them is something that Tim Walz might know from his days as a football coach, which is to watch the game film yourself. I promise if Tim Walz gets a few minutes to sit down and watch those clips from the rallies back to back, he's going to come to the same conclusion as you and I did, which is we need a more positive expression for the positive message. The other lesson, of course, is smile. I mean, smile.